Yes.
Okay. So yeah, welcome everyone. Good morning. So we are here today for the Dark Side School. I guess they would have already played the video, which this particular video they have already played, the one with that. Has this video already been played?
Yeah, we have played. Because of the delay,
Okay.
we played that video.
Okay, sure. Okay, so yeah, briefly introducing me, I am Adarsh. I am organizer at GDG IT Kanpur. I am a regular web developer, and currently I'm doing my PhD at IT Kanpur, and I'm general technology enthusiast. So I'll be walking you through the various parts of that, and so at first I will give the presentation, and later on we can have a short Q&A session where you can ask me any particular doubts that you may have. Okay. So the main thing is that the web is open, and there is no single entity that controls the web. So the web is like it's present everywhere. It's across multiple devices, and it lets you once you create a web program, it is accessible across various devices, whether it's phone or whether it's a tablet or whether it's a web browser, doesn't matter. Across the whole different set of operating systems, it's available. So, making tools which are helpful for us in order to uh, develop good web application is very essential. So that's where Dart comes into play. So what Dart wants to do is make you guys, have a very amazing tool using which you can build uh, awesome web applications. So that's exactly what we are going to learn today: how to use Dart to uh, increase your productivity and create applications that have enhanced performance. Uh, so these two basically define the objectives of Dart, which is to make the productivity more and have a very high performance of what are the apps that we create using Dart. So what we are going to do is have a very short, sprint through in learning this language in under an hour. So yeah, we can just start off and start building the application in next 1 hour. So to build the application, you would need an IDE. So you can use any of the IDE that you're already aware of, like the Dart editor, which comes on the Dart site, and the Sublime Text, or the WebStorm IDE from JetBrains. So you can use the tools that you're already familiar with, and also command line editors like VI or Emacs can be used to develop the application. So, and the applications that you create on Dart, it basically compiles the Dart code into a JavaScript which can run on any of the modern browsers, and you basically need not worry about supporting multiple different web browsers across different platforms. So Dart is going to compile to JavaScript, which is going to run on various web browsers. So one important thing to know is that Dart is a completely new language. It's not just meant for the web applications. You can use Dart for any general purpose programming. And today we are concentrating more on web programming part. But as such, Dart is a any program which can run on any. It can run on the client side or it can run on the server side. So the Dart code compiles onto natively as on a Dart VM, which is very similar to what you might know as JVM. So similarly, there is a Dart VM which you can deploy even on server side to make your Dart apps run on the server also. So basically, just knowing one language, you can program both client side as well as the server side. So let's see now how we would go ahead with starting a web app. So you'll start saying, okay, I want to build a web app. So what are the tools that I would need? You will need some tool which can bring in the libraries, load the libraries on the client side. So okay, there is a library called require.js for that. So you're going to use it, and on top of it, you need some kind of a framework. So because if you are doing a large application, just writing ad hoc code won't help you. So you might choose something like Backbone, which lets you build the programs in MEC format, model view controller, and you quickly realize that as soon as you build applications which have more than couple of pages, backbone goes out of control. So you realize that you need some more framework or extra sugar on top of it, which would help you build the application more efficiently. So you start to use backbone marionette, and then you realize that you have to do a lot of DOM manipulation, and you have to support multiple browsers. So you'll say, okay, I have to use jQuery. You start using that, and then you realize that browsers like Internet Explorer are not supported for most of the newer applications, the older IE. So to support it, you include a polyfill called modernizer, and you want to include some new stuff like the time displayed and the time being automatically changed like few moments ago, few time, 1 day ago, and stuff like that. So you use some additional libraries, and finally you have the templates using which will get rendered on your screen. So now to test all this, you will need one more headless browser called Phantom.js so that you can write test cases and be sure that whatever you are writing is actually tested across multiple platforms. And then you will realize that you need a testing framework, so you start using Jasmine. So now we have so many different frameworks that you have to refer to all the docs and try to integrate them, and build a final web app. And there are a lot of interdependencies, and there are specific ways in which they talk to each other. So all you wanted to do was just to write a web app. Now you end up reading so many different documents. What are the workarounds across different libraries, and spend a lot of time around it. So this is exactly where Dart comes into play. So Dart gives you SDK. It's not just the language that the Dart provides you, it's also the packages. It also provides you a framework of testing. It provides the next gen HTML specifications like Polymer. It helps you use internationalization in your applications. With all this, now the things are more consistent, and it will be more clear for you to build a single web application. So when you start off, the application might be really small, but as and when start adding new features, and your users keep asking you for new functionalities or bug fixes, your app quickly rises from very small code base to a very large code base, and it might become unmanageable. So what Dart wants to do is to give you a very familiar syntax, which you are already aware of if you are using any of the object-oriented uh, applications like Java or C++. So you might already know how you declare a class in Java. So the syntax is very familiar for you. It would be say class is the name of class, open brackets, and a constructor. So if the language is very tough, that means to say you don't have to be verbose in typing out every statement that you have. So you to create a constructor for class hug, you will say hug of this dot strength, which will basically create a new constructor. As soon as you pass a number to this constructor, it will create a new object of this class hug. And you can do regular stuff like operator overriding, so that whatever the code you write is more readable. And apart from that, you can use name parameters. If you are familiar with Python, you would know that you can use name parameters when you're calling functions, irrespective of where they appear. So with all these features, the syntax that you are already aware of, you can use the language. And you also have inline functions, and give a very concise and readable function for you. So, and also it has string interpolation, in which is like using for printing various statements and stuff. Now you might be asking me, why not do all these things in JavaScript itself? Do you remember this, or can you recognize this picture? uh, can you just put up your hand if you recognize this picture? No, nobody recognizes this picture. Okay, so let's. I would ask either one of the organizers to play the video that I have shared with them earlier. Is any of the organizers around?
Yeah.
Uh, yeah. Uh, Hi. Yeah. Hi. So can you play the video that I asked you? The what video?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. So now we'll see why JavaScript is a bad choice for it. and you will quickly recognize what this image is about.
Oh, all right, good. You guys know what WAT means? WAT? Exactly, exactly. Let's talk about Ruby. Uh, in Ruby, if you reference an undefined variable, of course it name errors, as you would expect. And if you try to assign B to A with them undefined, of course it name errors, as you would expect. And what happens if you try to assign A to A with A undefined? Correct. Nil. WAT. Let's talk about Ruby. Ruby, unlike some other dynamic languages, does not have bare words, so you cannot just type words in and have strings come out, unless you define a particular method missing that does the right thing. And then if you type bare words, suddenly Ruby supports bare words. And in fact, it will even support bare words with bangs in them. And this is not deserving of WAT. This is actually a result of how awesome Ruby is. But if you ever actually do this, then WAT. Let's talk about JavaScript. Does anyone know in JavaScript what array plus array is? Well, let me ask you this first. What should array plus array be? Empty array, I would also accept type error. That is not what array plus array is. Wrong. Wrong. Array plus array is empty string. Obviously, I think that's obvious to everyone. Now, what would array plus object be? This should obviously be type error because those are completely disparate types. Does anyone know what this is? No. Close. No. Far away. It's object. Right. Nicely done. Now, of course, because this is plus, so you can flip the operands and the same thing comes out. So if we do what? No, that's just an object. If you do object plus array, you should get exactly the same thing, which, as you can see, you do. And finally, the only one of these that's actually true is, because, you add arrays, you get empty string, that doesn't make sense. But an object plus an object is actually not a number, technically. So this one's actually right. And exactly, right? Like, what is even going on in this lab? I don't even understand what person with a brain in their head would think that any of this is a good idea. Okay. Enough making fun of languages that suck. Let's talk about JavaScript. If I say array.new 16, or just array 16, I get an array of 16 things, which it represents as 16 commas, which is obvious. And if I then join those with a string, then I get the string 16 times. This is actually the only line in this entire presentation that's reasonable. Now, if I take that string and then add a 1 to it, it interprets the 1 as, or casts the 1 to a string, and then we get WAT 1 a bunch of times, fine. Does anyone know what will happen if I subtract 1 from the string? I'm assuming no one does. I'll give you a hint. Does this help? Does anyone know? Plant mad. That's all I got. Thank you, guys.
Okay, so yeah, so now I guess you guys would recognize. Hello.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I guess now you should be able to figure out where this image comes from, and so that is here to make that image into an awesome image. So that's where that comes into play. So you saw what are the nitty-gritties of JavaScript, how it could screw up your application and make the things go wrong and do unexpected things. So that's exactly where that comes into play to convert your what things into an awesome thing. So yeah, so continuing, let's see how it helps you do clean semantics and behavior that you'd expect. There is only one true value, so there is no one getting auto converted to true and stuff like that, or any non-empty string getting converted to true. So only true is the actual truth, and there is no undefined. It's only null object. So if you declare something and do not initialize it, it's only null. And if you use some variable which is not even defined, it is null again. So there is no unexpected behaviors to catch you out of the surprise, and there are no type versions. So it does not automatically convert a number to string and string to number and stuff like that. So it is more logical. And next thing is, the error messages play a very huge role in figuring out how to debug your application. So say you have written this statement in Dart which has a string and dot and a name called missing. Now missing is actually trying to get something out of the string, but it does not exist on the string. So the error that you get is string has no instance getter missing. So this is a very logical error message using which you can know that there is no such method, and therefore you would have to either define a new method or call some method which has been misspelled on the string. And when you compare a string against a number, again it is very logical. It gives you this as a string that a string has no instant method greater than, which makes sense that you cannot directly compare strings with a number. So that's the stuff. And apart from that, the scoping of variables. So if you use JavaScript enough, then you will know that JavaScript is something called as hoisting. That is, if you define a variable anywhere within any nested blocks, it would be available throughout the global name scope. So that does not do hoisting. That is, whatever you define within a block or change within a block is restricted to the block level visibility, and whatever you do outside is the top level thing if the top level variable is available. So there is no hoisting, and the expected output for this is something that if you're familiar with Java or C, you would have the same output. And it has lexical this. So this is a very frustrating error if you would have ever done this when you're writing, say, jQuery. So what happens is the variable this, it is supposed to mean the object's self-instance, but the point is it gets binded at only when you declare it as var. If you have done the JavaScript, basically it is not the lexical order of where this appears. So, but that's not the case with Dart. If you are using in Dart this as a accessor, then you have a lexical this, which makes the things more coherent. So apart from that, there is a very neat laid out way of building apps on Dart. You have packages, you have libraries, you have functions, classes, mixin, interfaces. So some of you might be familiar if you have done any of the object-oriented programming, but if you have not done, it does not matter much. You can start off afresh and still learn it very well. So the code sample on the screen, the right-hand side, has two things that we just discussed, library and import. So if you want your whatever the code you write in Dart to be available for other developers, then you would create a library, and you can give the name as library and followed by the name of library. And if you are trying to use somebody else's code into your Dart code, then you'd use the import statement with the specific path. So here, for example, we have imported Dart : math. So Dart : is a special syntax to include any of the Dart default libraries that's available for you. And the second statement is for importing custom code that you might have written in any of the other different folders. And apart from that, you also have multiple classes and you can use. And one other thing that Dart does is syntactic sugar. When, say, for example, if you have to define a new variable and initialize it with various properties, generally in any language you do var variable name and initialize it with a new object. and then you would use the name of the variable dot some property names multiple times to initialize it. But we know that we are working with the button and this initialization phase, and we are repeating the button multiple times. So to avoid this, that gives you a syntactic trigger, which is dot dot, which is basically whatever the element in the previous line, the same element you're going to use to access properties and various functions on top of it. So this makes the code more concise and readable, so that you can easily understand the code, or write the code in a very concise manner. So you also have inline initialization, like you can see here we have a new button element, which is an object in itself, and dot dot is going to access that particular object and assign the property text as a click point. So similarly, this is like a nameless object. You can just initialize one-off thing and add it into your document object model within HTML. And say if you want to do a operation where you have a hug class that we just saw a few slides back, and we know that hug is a object kind of thing which is inheriting from object, and we want to make it perishable. So perishable in the sense when I store it into the DOM, I don't want it to store. So in a regular inheritance, I would have to extend object into perishable, persistable, and persistable into class hug. But we know that persistable hug is not a persistable. So we don't want to, pollute our inheritance tree. So what we can do is we want to add the functions given by a persistable class, but we are sure that it's not a part of our inheritance line. So basically what we can use is mixin, which gives us all the functions that's available in the persistable mixin into our class called hug. So in that case, what happens is like this: we have persistable as a abstract class where you have load and save methods and two JSON methods for serialization, and your class would extend from object, which is the parent we see over here. Object is being extended by hug, and we are using a special syntax called with persistable, which is giving all the functions defined in persistable within this particular function. And of course, you can override the two JSON method within the class and leave the rest of the implementations of persistable as it is. So when you actually create a new hug within the main function, you have a dot save method available, which is from your persistable class. So yeah, this is one of the nice features which you can use in that. And one of the main thing is like when we context switch from one to other, we spend a lot of time. So that's where our major time goes away. I would want to show a brief demo on how we can use the Angular, Dart IDE to debug the stuff. So is Zagin any of the organizers around? I would like to play a video, so if they have a video locally, that would be better than me playing via the Hangout.
The first link, right?
Yeah, this is the YouTube video, the second link. The first link.
The first link that you shared, right?
I guess second link. The first link was the same video, which you might have already played.
Okay. 1 minute, I am looking down.
Sure.